Yes.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome. This is a visit we're having here with the President General of the UNIA-ACL RC2020 with us here in Washington, D.C. We're glad to have him, and we'll soon introduce him to you. But first, we have to do what we call the rituals. And this one is just the official pledge to the flag. So, just with everyone ready, I'll commit myself. I commit my body, mind, and spirit.
I commit my body, mind, and spirit
to the protection, defense, and security
protection, defense, and security
of the red, black, and green.
of the red, black, and green.
I dedicate my life
I dedicate my life
to the redemption of Mother Africa
to the redemption of Mother Africa
and the liberation of her scattered black children.
and the liberation of our scattered black children.
I accept for myself and my descendants
I accept for myself and my descendants
teachings of universal African nationalism.
Teachings of universal African
And
nationalism.
I promise that our children
I
Promise that our children
will be instilled
will be instilled
with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people,
with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people,
in order that the cause of our struggle
in order that the cause of our
will
struggle
neither falter nor fail,
will neither
falter or fail,
until all black people are free and united,
so all black people are free and united,
through one God,
One God,
one aim,
one aim,
one destiny.
one destiny.
Thank you.
You don't want to say anything else about the division?
Division 330 is welcoming the President General to Washington, D.C. We have members here, but of course, the focus will be on the President General. What we are going to do is give you an aspect of what is coming for 2022. 2022 is going to be a banner year for the UNIA-ACL RC2020. You will hear a lot of what we intend to be doing. It's going to be a year of work, a year of getting up and get, a year of no talking much, just doing much. So, without further ado, I will give the President General first, Assistant President General, I should say, the opportunity to present the President General. Thank you.
Yes. Greetings. Thank you, Baba Mosi. And before we get started, I'd just like to say we had a very powerful Freedom Friday last night, and all of you all who may be looking for it on YouTube, it may not be able to be posted on YouTube, but check the Facebook out. And I'm told that you can email that if you know how to put it in your browser. So I wanted to let everybody know that because it's a very powerful event. Our President General was with us, but also our international organizer and also our High Commissioner General of the Caribbean and Central America. And it's very powerful because we're talking about Southern Africa. We're talking about where things are, where things should be, and where we need to be, and where we're going. So with that said, though, I just want to, in introducing the President General, I want to lay some things out real quickly. I want to thank Baba Mosi and Division 330 for opening up the door despite the pandemic, for allowing the President General on this tour, because he is going other places, despite the pandemic. We have been doing a lot of our work via Zoom. That has helped us a lot, brothers, and on Facebook, because we've been able to communicate with brothers and sisters all around the world. So coming up in 2022, I'm not giving a message, the President General is giving a message, but I do want to let you know the Black Star Action Network International is joined at the hip with us, and you're going to be hearing a lot about the works that are being done by the Black Star Action Network International, as well as UNIA-ACL Rehabilitating Committee government. And we also are aligning with a lot of other groups. We're working with the Nubian Leadership Circle, which is a group that grew out of the remnants of the Million Man March and the National African American Leadership Summit. Not going to go into too much detail, but I will tell you that Dr. Chenzara and myself are representing ourselves and, of course, the government of the UNIA as co-chairs of the international cadre. We're also working with groups like PADU, SRDC, ADASI, and so many others. Of course, we want to be unified with groups like the Provincial Government of the Republic of New Africa, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and anybody doing anything to uplift black people. Even civic groups and social organizations and institutions, we're working to establish some type of memorandums of understanding going forward. So, but without any further ado, Brother Ron just came in the door. How you doing, Brother Ron? And so, but it is just so a pleasure being here in the Davis Center. And we were saying earlier, this is a liberation zone. When the President General first said that he was going to come to Banneker City and he wanted to get to Banneker City in 2021 because he has just been re-elected for a 4-year term, which will be 3 years because the convention was only held in August of 2021. So it's 3 years, but it's a 4-year term. So we're happy to say that this is his first public speaking engagement here in Banneker City, Washington, D.C. So this is very important. So this is why we're streaming it on Facebook, even though we're here live in the Davis Center, where we've done many, many events. So what we want to say to everybody is listen very carefully. We ask for your membership as well. So I'm going to say that so he doesn't have to get into that. We want you to join as active members, even though all of you that have melanin and African energy in your DNA are members, but dues-carrying members are ones who are responsible for the upkeep of the government. And if we don't upkeep the government, y'all know what's going on all around the world. But a change is in the air. As Brother Sam said, change is going to come. And when that change comes, we don't want it to fall back into another oppressive type system. So we're building our own self-reliant systems. We're coming up on pre-Kwanzaa next week. We'll have a big pre-Kwanzaa on the 18th. We'll save that one for later if y'all have questions and answers. If you want to post anything in the Facebook page, please do. If we don't get to you right away, we promise we will get to you. But right now, the UNIA is in Africa. It is in Canada. It is in the Caribbean. It is in South America. It is in the United States. And it's certainly on the continent of Africa. So without any further ado, I'll bring to you our President General, Baba Akili Malik Nkrumah. I like that. I like that, brother. I like the way it doesn't only rhyme, it blends.
Yes, sir. How about it, guys? Hotel.
Zero son of
Papa Mosey made a point to me coming over here. In 2020, which is where the Rehabilitating Committee gets a part of its name, I was elected interim President General. I was confirmed as President General in 2021. That's how the term, I saw you looking at the numbers. That's how the term appears to be 3 years when it's actually 4. But to start this conversation, and that's how I'm going to treat this as a conversation, I want to read the principal resolution of the UNIA-ACL Rehabilitating Committee 2020. And the purpose of reading it is in order to make sure that everyone understands how we got here. And that will help you understand where we're going. Because if you don't know your history, if you don't know the history that you're actually reacting to, then you will not react appropriately. You will not accomplish what you're out to do. Remembering that the core of African fundamentalism of the Honorable Marcus Garvey is that we, African people, should create, operate, and maintain and organize earnest approach towards uplifting Africa and African people back to the heights our history demands. Also remembering that during the more than 100 years of existence of the organization and government, Mr. Garvey created for the purpose the UNIA-ACL. There were several interludes during which some leaders and members lost their African fundamentalist way. Being clear that during such times, such as in 1929, when Mr. Garvey reorganized the UNIA-ACL, and in 1942, when Mr. Harvey established the Rehabilitating Committee, our ancestors, leaders, had to successfully arise and organize in order to get the UNIA-ACL back on the proper track of African fundamentalism. Having consulted with such Garveyites who have passed the course of African philosophy and who are scholars of the Constitution of the UNIA-ACL of 1929, and being informed that these consultants have agreed that within the UNIA-ACL administration between August 2016 and January 2020, there existed a multitude of major problems including a consistent lack of integrity and dishonorable anti-constitutional behavior by that administration. And being certain that such miscent administrative behavior has resulted in a cataclysmic decline in the UNIA-ACL membership, loss of respect for, and loss of adherence to the principles of African fundamentalism. And the continuation of such administration represents a threat to the continuing existence of the UNIA-ACL, the body that Mr. Garvey and other ancestor founders built. Standing on the rock of Garveyites, certainly it is therefore resolved that the time has come to establish another corrective in the forward path of the UNIA-ACL. And therefore we resolve that the UNIA-ACL Rehabilitation Committee 2020 is now fully operational in order to restore the integrity of the initiative and enterprise of Marcus Garvey and our ancestors. As I said, I like this to be more of a conversation, but let me highlight on this for a moment. In 1929, when the Honorable Marcus Garvey viewed the UNIA's presence and existence, he reached out to members of the organization, and they concurred to reorganize with him. He did not target the UNIA-ACL in America. He targeted the men and women that he felt would help him build or rebuild the UNIA, which is why it was reorganized. He then established the course of African philosophy, the institution, in order to teach it, and he taught 2 classes. He held conventions in Canada because he could no longer return to the United States. He was sorely disturbed at his release from prison that he was immediately deported and not allowed to attend to any of his business that were taking place at the time. Marcus Messiah Garvey established the UNIA-ACL in 1914 in Jamaica. He came to America in 1917 and built the UNIA-ACL that we know. He went from there and established the UNIA Incorporated, UNIA Inc., as we like to call it. He then returned to the UNIA. At convention in 1920, he was elected President General. And you may ask yourself, why are you giving me this history? Because I need you to understand the purpose of the resolution and the historical steps that we stand on. So when he was deported and he went home, and the deportation was in 1926, he ran into trouble. But in 1929, he had successfully navigated those waters, reached out here to America and said, I'm going to reorganize the UNIA, who is with me. Men like Charles L. James, Thomas W. Harvey, James Orr Stewart, and many others flocked to work with Mr. Garvey. And he began to rebuild. In the Constitution, you see it as amendments. However, our ancestors did not denote what was in the amendment. But let me give you a couple so that you can see the change. When it was reorganized in 1929, Garvey made it his mission to try and repay everybody that bought $5 stocks from the Black Star Line. He also put in the Constitution that no stocks in any meeting could be sold that was not to a company that belonged to the UNIA-ACL, because the Black Star Line did not belong to the UNIA-ACL. It was a separate corporation. So he said, let me fix this, because he realized that there was a challenge, and part of that challenge was the people did not see that they were building the UNIA because the company was not the UNIA, but the flair of black people owning their own ships at the time in 1900, 1922, 23, that pride is what drove it, because we had not done that. Garvey stood on that. He worked with that. He moved that. So we have to understand that that was a part of that time frame. We also have to understand that the reason he was convicted was because of the racism and the Jim Crowism that existed here in America at that time, and many other things. So in the reorganizing of 1929, is how we get here. Marcus Messiah Garvey did not have a first assistant president general, a second assistant president general, third assistant president general, or he had none of those offices. He determined what he did, even in educating the men and women, men and women, women and men in those classes, was giving them positions such as High Commissioner General. But he didn't build that artist back. He did not think that they had grown to the point of providing the leadership that he wanted to see within the UNIA-ACL. Marcus Messiah Garvey moved in such a way as to say, I want to empower African people. He went into Canada and said to the mayors and governors and the Canadian forces, and of course they were white, but invited them to the mass meetings to say, I like what you did. And when I do it for mine, come and appreciate it. So it wasn't about hate or discord, it was about development and empowering people of African descent in order to move forward. You say, how does that bring me to now? I don't know, this chair probably ain't gonna work for me for so long. How does it bring us to now? The Marcus Garvey transition. There is a film you may one day see put together by a young woman in England that said when Marcus Garvey died, he died penniless. And they said he died penniless because of the number of court cases that he fought in Jamaica before Jamaica recognized him as their first hero. They did everything they could to try to break his spirit, even at home. Motivated, of course, by the British government, of course. He did not die penniless. He died President General of the UNIA-ACL, with his Secretary General there. But how, unfortunately, he read in the paper the day before he died that he had died. They printed it. Yes. And again, you may say, how does this get us here? Walk with me for a little minute, just a few more minutes, and then I'm going to talk about 2022. Mr. Stewart, High Commissioner General, Mr. Harvey, High Commissioner General, Mr. James, they called a meeting of the body. Mr. Stewart was elected President General. There were some disagreements in that format. Mr. Charles O. James was elected First Assistant President General under Mr. Stewart. There was differences. Mr. Harvey's difference to Mr. Stewart's was the support of the Garvey family. That's the crux. In many of the discussions, even with Carlos Coates and Amy Jacques Garvey with Mr. Stewart, that was the argument. Our position was the UNIA is supposed to take care of us. That's the type of organization that Garvey built. Even though the term potentate was no longer used, it was dedicated to anyone who was in that leadership position that they should be supported, the family should be supported for their lifetime. That was the argument. It came down to money. Check that out. Came down to money. Mr. Stewart's position was, okay, divisions, y'all want to support the family, put money together and sing. Mr. Harvey did not agree with that. Mr. Harvey began to work closer with Amy Jacques Garvey, which is how you have the books. Garvey and Garveyism. Philosophies and opinions. The third philosophies and opinions. They put that together. Again, this history is important just to understand the mission. Because if you don't understand the mission, if you don't understand the history, then the mission gets lost. Was there problems in the administration? Yes. Was there disagreements? Yes. Was there a need to rehabilitate? Yes. And people would say, well, how can you support Mr. Harvey? Wasn't that against the rule? No. Because if the direction is inappropriate, then you change it. You stay true to the path of African fundamentalism. You stay true to the path of developing a nation for African people. You don't go away from the path. You can have disagreements. I assure you, you will disagree with me. I assure you. But if I stay true to the path and you stay true to the path, we'll work through those disagreements. That's what we have to be committed to do. And starting the Rehabilitating Committee in 1942, Mr. Harvey didn't actually succeed from the UNIA until 1948 when Mr. Stewart moved the parent body headquarters to Liberia. Good, bad, or indifferent is not the point. None of this is to say that was wrong, that it's not negative. It is just history. If we understand the history, we understand the direction, we understand the course that we have to do, and we understand what African fundamentalism was meant to be and how we play a role in it today. In the resolution, we cited the year from 2016 to 2020 as we saw challenges and problems. And we recognize that in the world, the voice of the UNIA-ACL has become silent. For over a year, 2020 to present, we have worked to put our voices loudly back into the discussion in the world. People talk about Garvey, but we want people to talk about the UNIA-ACL. And I want you to talk about the UNIA-ACL RC2020 for this reason. We're on the same mission and the path of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and those men and women from the UNIA-ACL that he started both in 1917 and again in 1929, that Mr. Harvey continued, that Mr. James continued, that Mr. Garvey Jr. continued. And we have had the opportunity to have been blessed to work with all of them, to work with Reginald Maddox, to work with the President Generals all the way down to Single Valle. Mr. Battles, yeah, we've had that opportunity. So taking that experience and taking that knowledge and saying, you know, we got to speak to worldly issues. You heard Senghor speak to a couple of organizations. He mentioned the Nubian Leadership Council, he mentioned Basani, but let me go further. We are working now to build memorandums of understanding with a number of organizations here, as well as organizations on the continent. Because again, we want our voice to be a part of the discussion. We want to sit at the round table of leadership and be able to provide input. And I not run a country, but I do understand the politics that impact people of African color here. And then I also understand how white people impact the African people on the continent of Africa, because they here. See, so it gives us a broader understanding because we're here and we are there. So as we do outreach into Africa and we begin to talk about the challenges, we have to also recognize we're talking to our own here and that we want to be a part of the leadership circle on the continent of Africa. Mm-hmm. See, it's about here because we can make a difference here as well, but it's about making a difference on a global scale. Garvey said, build a nation for African people. We have the landmass. We don't have the political structure for the nation. We can achieve that because when Garvey started, there was only one African government. Now there are 55. That's a change. We have to recognize the change, navigate the change, to realize that after Kwame Nkrumah, there were a number of men and now women that are heads of states, that are leading countries, that are providing input and direction, that there are conversations on issues that we can assist with and they can assist us. Because now we begin to exchange, not going to colonize, not going to dominate, not going to tell you what to do, but to share ideas, to listen to ideas, to interface, to discuss, in order for us to make a serious impact on the conditions of African people worldwide. In America today, there is a climate where we are being our own worst enemy. Our self-destruction is cataclysmic. That is because there is a lack of love, respect, understanding of who the hell we are. And I don't know if that's going to be a problem on Facebook, but that's a fact. We don't know who we are. We don't relate to each other. We don't talk to each other. I stood in front of a group of black men and women, and I said to black men, how many of you talk to your son? They looked at me and they said, what do you mean? Your son is on the phone. How many of you talk to your son? How many of you talking to your daughter? How many of you know what they are going through, what challenges they have? Because the technology today has eliminated conversation. We aren't sitting down at the table with our children and having dinner. We're not doing that. We're not sitting in our schools listening to what the teachers that we have in front of our children are saying that happens in the classroom. We're not doing that. We're not looking even at universities to see what's taking place, which is how people have been at parties drunk to the point that they self-destruct. Look at what we took away. We took away the educational system that incorporated who we are. One time there was a Council of Independent Black Institutions, CV. I understand now that they may be trying to rehab that, CV, Council for Independent Black Institutions. That's not a charter school. See, not a charter school. It's a school to where the parents make it happen and support it by the work they do, and then the teachers benefit because yes, they get paid, but they now have an investment in the children that they teach. And I can speak to that in all honesty because I did that. You see, we have to regroup. And that's what the UNIA-ACL RC2020 is about. So in 2022, we're going to be doing outreach to organizations, building MOUs, having discussions. You see, we will lay out a 5-year plan, but in building a 5-year plan, there are Black people already in financial institutions. We should be talking to them. They say, we want to build the plan, but how did you, and how can, and what do, see, we have questions and they have answers. So we have the MOU just to get the information, not trying to get them not to do what they do. It's called unity without uniformity. Operational unity too. You see? Yeah. See, we have political entities here, as well as in Africa, that we need to have conversations with. But at first we have to begin to show the government that we are and how we are leading and how we are providing structure for African people. It's a monumental task in a lot of ways, but it's not impossible. The reason it's not impossible because it doesn't always have to be done face to face. We're going to use technology to our benefit. We're going to do virtual. We're going to reach out. We're going to involve. We're going to communicate. We recently have drafted and formulated a letter to Barbados because of the governmental change. Government to government. See, when you start doing that, now your name, you are out there. Government to government. Working with SRDC, we are part of establishing a library in Liberia through SRDC. Because we will have that unity with SRDC, we'll be able to formulate that relationship with SRDC as they build the library, and then we can help with providing books and providing support for the process. We have sat down and made a contribution to the development of a bust of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey Brother Yap. And that's working with the Ethiopian government so that we can help build that back. So we'll put our voices in it and we put our resources in it and then we build a relationship and bring it back home. Because on the world stage, it's about what you do, not so much what you say on the world stage. So that's the path we're moving on. I understand, and I don't want to speak to this, because in 2022, come August 31st, and which is African Independence Day. Now, why is August 31st African Independence Day? I keep saying, know your history, you understand the present. Garvey and the men and women in 1920 determined that our Independence Day would be August 31st. 2022, I'm not asking this government or any other government to exonerate the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I'm going to stand up on this. I'm not asking. It is time that we, Garveyites, we people of African descent, tell the world the truth. We know that Garvey was railroaded. We know that Garvey was imprisoned improperly. We know that his attorney general for the UNIA was a spy and became the first Black assistant attorney general in the state of New York. Yeah, check that out. He got rewarded. We know that the FBI hired more Black people to get involved with Marcus Garvey than they had hired in the whole time, and they still treated them like N-word. So we know that. But we know that out of over 25,000 files, only 14 people complained about Marcus Garvey. We know this. So if we know this, and we know that it was
a flyer in the envelope. So he didn't solicit, they sent out a flyer, and then you use the empty envelope to help confirm that. But however, they also tracked the money. You said, what money? That's why Garvey made the change in the Constitution that says no stock can be sold that do not belong to the UNIA. But because he was Garvey and he headed the Black Star Line, and he was Garvey who headed the UNIA-ACL, white folks followed the dollar. And then they tried to convict him on not just mail fraud, but on financial fraud. And that's what landed him in prison. We know that in that time, almost the same as in this time, that's how they want to jack you. They want to jack you. And they wanted Garvey bad. Not only did they want Garvey, a lot of Negroes wanted Garvey too. To understand, the forces was there. But Garvey, in his honesty, said, hey, I don't even need a lawyer. I should be able to handle this. And he defended himself. People want to say that was a mistake. Probably not. Because at the point of trusting one lawyer who jammed you, why would you trust another? It's the sign of the times. So again, RC 2020 come August 31st, we are going to exonerate the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey of all crimes, of all causes, and we will claim that we will state that the United States government absolutely railroaded him into prison, and then even in his deportation, he came out of prison, they took him right to the ship and sent him off. You know, it's like he walked out the door, armed guards, took him to the ship, sent him back home. Yeah. His complaint was, I didn't get a chance to take care of no business. Nope, you got to go. I've seen spies that America has captured get treated better. Tell your history. So August 31st, wherever you are, that day, we will, at a time, on that day, we exonerate Marcus Messiah Garvey ourselves. And if the other people ever do it, that's fine. If they never do it, that's fine. Because we will do it. Because we are the ones that should lead that charge to honor him. We're the ones that need to lead the charge so that the family knows that the UNIA-ACL, now RC 2020, stands by the founder and first President General and first provisional president of Africa, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. So that's 22. In 22, you will hear us talk about more of the memorandum of understanding, more of the outreach, more programs, more visibility, getting the word out, showing folks just how real we are. Because you see, it doesn't matter how many people see you today. It matters how many people will see and hear you as you move forward. So 2022, we kick open the door and we start screaming. Start saying to the world, yeah, we're here. And I will not, at no time, turn away from a Garveyite that wants to work. If you're working, meet me there. So you don't have to agree with me. It's all right. I don't have to agree with you. That's all right. Meet me at your work. Because if you're working and we meet at the work becomes the supreme tool that justifies and solidifies whatever dispositions we may have, because we know we're doing the work. See, it's like if me and you are digging a ditch, as long as my shovel go in when your shovel go in, we know we're going to get that hole done. But if we're going to dig the ditch and you're going to say, I don't like you, so I ain't going to dig, and I'm the only one digging, so you ain't meet me at the work. Meet me at the work. You may say, wait a minute, why you say digging a ditch? Okay, let's do better than that. Meet me on the internet. Meet me on your laptop. Let us have that kind of discussion back and forth. If we're doing that in that discussion, because you're in Canada or because you're in England and I'm here in DC, if we have that kind of communications, even our differences will be resolved by the work. If you say, hey, I'm writing an article, I would like to put that in the Garvey voice. Okay, we got it in the Garvey voice. You can say, hey, you know what? I don't want to go in the Garvey voice, but I do want to work with you to establish a type of communications link. Let's do that. We want to develop and establish a program to educate children of African descent. You want to do that? Let's go do that. Let's work on that. I want to develop financial institutions that look at African people in the way that we should be respected. You want to do that? Let's go do that. Let's work on that. You may say, I don't agree with your politics. Do you agree with the mission? Yes, I agree with the mission. Then let's work on the mission. Politics we worry about later. You see, it's the work. Let's meet at the work. 2022, 2 years in, it becomes seriously important that we make a major change in how we operate. And that major change is not just through technology, but it's a major change that will be done through our presence and our interactions, because we have members of RC 2020 that's in a lot of places. A lot of places. We now have people reaching out to us about trying to come this way. And I say, hey, if you do, great. If you don't, you working, we working, that's fine with me that to work. It's nothing more critical, nothing more important than that. Also in 2022, we will be hosting activity in St. Croix. We'll be back in San Diego, and there's going to be other things that have not been formulated at this point, but we will be moving in that direction. I expect to see other divisions and visit them throughout 2021 to also try to move us forward, because how you grow divisions is you show leadership and you show consistency and you show the commitment. And that's what this is about doing, showing those things. Listen, and I'm not going to keep going. I'm going there. We established teaching the course of African philosophy. We have 1, 2, 3 students that were students of students. We are students of students that learn from the master himself. And so out of that, we've started to train and educate men and women on the course of African philosophy. I believe there are some graduates in this room. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what we are now doing is formulating the Marcus Garvey University. We have Dr. David Horn to assist with that, who's also a graduate. We want to get to brick and mortar. See, we're going to be not just the Institute Online, because Garvey said when he did, look in the Constitution, Garvey said you could take the course, a written course, you could mail it in. That would work for them back then. Okay, y'all ain't mailing nothing in today. We already know that. We know that. We know you're going to use technology, so we put that in place. It's done virtual. I'm about to begin my 3rd class for teaching the course of African philosophy next 2022. But we are now working to find and establish a location in California for the brick and mortar university, because we want a brick and mortar university. We're also looking for locations so that we can establish a headquarters, a UNIA headquarters, brick and mortar headquarters. May not be here in DC, may not be in Philadelphia. We'll find as we work what's the best place to go to establish that here. That's a crucial entity so that folks, when they look around and say, where's the UNIA? They see a building with that red, black, and green flag flying on the top. And yes, if you're in America, you also got to fly that American flag. That's the law. So you'll see them both, but you're going to see that red, black, and green. This is 2022. We may not have a brick and mortar in 2022, but we'll have a plan for it. And as we move forward, we'll make certain that we bring about the kind of changes that are important, that are necessary. Listen. 2022 and beyond, we're not slowing down. We have young men, young women, older scholars, senior scholars that have come together. And you know, this is so interesting. Our coming together proves that you don't have a generation gap or a break in the communications. You just have to have communications. So that's 2022 and a broad stroke of the brush. Because all of what has to be done has not totally been completely laid out. But I will say this. We want to make sure that in developing the 5-year plan, that we benefit our youth, our elders, and the building of the UNIA-ACL RC2020. That's important. We understand and recognize economics is important. Understand and recognize politics is important. Understand and recognize the spirituality is important. So I don't care how you relate. I care only that you relate to how, whatever you choose. 2022, if this is my first stop, so that means somewhere in 2023, we're gonna have to get a bigger place and fill it up, because then it'll generate the kind of income that we need. And so those of you in the room, I will sit down and answer any questions that you have, if you so choose. And I don't know if there's a chat on Facebook Live, if they can send questions. If they can, I'll take them too.
So, and we move as a team.
Absolutely.
I first like to welcome DC. So
Yeah, okay, Ron, stand up so we can hear you. At least they can hear you on
I
Facebook.
just wanted to welcome the District of Columbia as he travels the Suffolk City trip.
All right, that's good, that's good. Anybody else? I know Congo, you got a lot you wanna share. You wanna come up here, man, so you can be heard? Or speak loud so you can be heard?
I don't know. I'm with you with the expansion plans that you have. One way that I think we need to expand is that we have to, in one of the meetings that we have to put out a press release.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like condemning, like, hey, the water in Detroit is still bad, condemn them. Or, you know,
Agree.
do all that. Also, we have to do on foreign policies that the Europeans are doing to Africa and the Pacific and the Caribbean.
Agree.
So that will help. Sooner or later, we're gonna have to expand from English.
Agreed.
Because in the West, the biggest people don't speak English, and that's needed. But also, I have a problem that sometimes we need to have a flyer. Just to inform people of what the UNIA is. Just a pamphlet that I could hand to someone saying, okay, this is just a pamphlet just to introduce people. Because at one of the Million Man March, we were out there and people did not know, even people from the nation did not know anything about Garvey or the UNIA. And so therefore, we have to do that, and we have to go from elementary school on up. We have to work with the educators to come up with different curriculums. And since we're worldwide, we have to do that worldwide.
And to your point, I think part of that is two things is being addressed. One, media releases. We have been speaking to international affairs. That's one. Two, part of getting to the table with the various organizations with a memorandum of understanding is also then to put us in position to have conversations with teachers, unions, and other places so that we can talk about a curriculum that we can help design to address children of African descent, but recognize going to those institutions is also going to be taught to other people. So we recognize that too. And we've closed no doors. No doors. Because if you do that, then you don't successfully reach out to the world. The language issue, you're 100% right. Because I've been here and had a brother speak English and say, look, that ain't my natural language. And began to speak his natural language. And I can respect that. See, so even though I may not know the language, I knew his message. And I knew what he was saying. I would say heads of state on the continent of Africa, most of them have knowledge of English because English is in the world. But at the same time, if I'm going to be working in the bush, that ain't going to be there. If I'm going to be working in the streets on the continent of Africa, it won't be there. So you're 100% correct. We have to grow to making sure that we have things in multiple languages so that we can reach across the continent. Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? No other questions or comments?
Yeah, we want to know, what is the curriculum going to be for? What is the course of study for the university?
For the university, well, it would start with, of course, Garvey's course of African philosophy. And then working with Dr. David Horn and others in the field, we will develop the courses. Yeah, You're gonna use the educators to do that.
You got your work cut out for you.
So I like that answer. So when we say curriculum, one major curriculum, but other curriculums that are required, and a lot of people look at science by excellence. Like we got an engineer here who knows how to help with curriculum. We got teachers. So it will be a collective effort, particularly those that passed the course already, and even those who have not, who have the information, because as you said, no doors are closed. But we can't expect everything to come from the top. In fact, the real movement is going to be coming from the bottom. What the top is responsible for doing, and I'm not just talking about the PG, I'm talking about the leadership period, is putting structure together that everyday people can relate to and find out where they fit in. So in terms of curriculums, you know, yourself, Mama Mary, Mama Tendai, Dr. Horn, Dr. Chenzara have been educators for a long time. So you know the required curriculums that would exist on every level of age. In other words, you have a different curriculum for, I'm gonna use this term elementary, but I would prefer to use the term 12 and under, but I'll say elementary. The curriculum for elementary will be different than the curriculum for junior high. Then the curriculum for college level would be different, and adult level. All those curriculums can be enjoined with the same information, but can be put together that are more relate to the age group. Because one of the things that I worked in the public schools for a long time myself as a guidance counselor, and then I worked for the National Association of Social Workers. Education and social work are the worst areas that have been addressed by the system of white supremacy. What I mean by that is, we've been miseducated educationally, and we've been duped socially, and put on welfare and things of that nature of programs that do not help raise the consciousness. So naturally, we would come up with our own social construct for social services and our own social construct for how we want to educate. And the reason I went into that like that is because the educational system of North America, most people think, well, you got degrees, you've been successful. That's not true. If that was true, we would not be in the condition we're in right now. So food, clothing, and shelter is still not reaching the critical mass. So somewhere along the line, all of these PhDs ain't doing their job.
Well, Sante, but the thrust that I got from you was what would be the curriculum at the university.
Right.
Right. That's what I Tim Gore gave how it should manifest from early age forward. But that curriculum for university will be designed by educators. The only thing that's the guaranteed requirement at this point is the course of African philosophy will be taught there. And there will be others, structural pieces that go, but you still want to have a brick and mortar building, therefore you want to build a campus. That means you have to build in other curriculums to educate that critical mass that you're trying to prepare to move forward and continue the work of the UNIA-ACL RC2020 and the building of the government for African people.
But what I think she's talking about is that if you take the course of African philosophy and the other Garvey books, you need to have relationships with the curriculum so you could trace where.
That'll be a part of the curriculum.
So you have to develop like a neural mapping.
That'll be a part of the. That's why I'm not saying I got it. I know the central aspect of it, but you have the minds to build what it takes to make that institution.
Yeah, because eventually when you want to be like a Marcus Garvey AI system.
Yeah, the reason I stressed.
What do you say?
Marcus Garvey artificial intelligence system.
I understand. I said what you said. That's what I was talking about. I guess the follow-up to that question is, you said the expectation comes from the bottom up. Exactly. What do you expect from the bottom?
Okay. I don't think that the expectation starts at the bottom first. I think what you want people to do is have expectations going forward. So just because you are not a parent body person or a member of the UNIA, you're not the bottom. You're the person that I want to be able to appeal to, and appealing to you help you with what you are attempting to accomplish in your life. Because if you're attempting to accomplish something in your life, you have expectations. I want to show you a means and mechanism of achieving that. That's the thrust.
Let me add something. For 6 years, we had 4 curriculums tied to the camp, the summer camp for girls. Those curriculums look nothing like a curriculum that you would have in a regular school setting. There was discipline, there was etiquette, and things of that nature, working with girls who come from a low income background. So what I'm saying basically is, you know, I know Kathy and the other folks at Mama Davis, the people, all of them will have input in us putting together ways of teaching. See, because young girls need to be taught a little different in a lot of areas than young boys. So you might have different curriculums. We found that girls in the city are easier to be reached. But we found that young men are better to be taken out of the city, you know, and away from, and put in a more environment that's more nature. So they're away from the city because their attention span was different. So it's different methods is what I'm saying. And that's what I was saying. Basically, we're all saying the same thing, but we got to be very clear that a lot of our people require a different type of education than some of our other brothers and sisters. And that's where, and when I said top, I'm not bottom, I'm definitely from Tim. Good to see you, bro. It's always important to have input coming from all of our membership base, because we got great minds, but unless we're working together, it's not a great mind. You hear what I'm saying? I mean, it's just great minds over here and over here, but we got to come together. Another educator just came in the door who's dealt with education. So his input would be critical towards putting certain curriculums together. So I mean,
your face does not say you've gotten the answer that you would like.
Yeah.
So let me say to you, it's not what we expect from the bottom. I don't know that it is a bottom. I expect us to help and build a institution that's going to provide education to people of African descent. And we're going to do that through the Marcus Garvey University. These as the beginning, and utilizing the course of African philosophy as a critical aspect of what gets built in that university. There is no one course or one curriculum in the university. Yes.
But it comes into the psychological program of the mind, of the group consciousness. So you have to infuse African theme philosophies, social structures, spiritual systems, cultural systems.
Those are the pieces that get built around the course.
Right. So as you have to build like a African themed neurosphere of the group think psychology.
Right. Now,
African economics, African emotional.
Right.
So you build around the course, and that's the answer to your question.
Yeah, but PG, at our convention, Dr. Horn made a statement, and I know because I talked to Mama Yao about that. The statement that he made about a curriculum, and you asked when we're going to have that curriculum. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay, yes. Did we talk about it?
Well, you mentioned it on a call with me and Baba Mosi.
Right.
You asked that question, but what I'm saying is at convention, Dr. Horn said something, and I'm just trying to bring the President General up to speed to, because I think we're all on the same page. But specifically, it's the course of African philosophy. And what most people don't know is that the 22 lessons that were taught to us, there were 20 other lessons. There were 20 other lessons that Marcus Garvey dealt with within a month's time.
Yeah, and they are in. I think at this point the object, though, to answer your question is, as my brother has pointed out, there will be a curriculum that will center around the course of African philosophy, but it will have African economics, African politics, which is a part of the course. We'll build around the course, so you use the educational minds in order to do that. So I'm not able to say today, this is what the curriculum is going to be. I'm not able to do that. That will happen as we move toward brick and mortar. We'll also be moving to develop the curriculums that we taught at the university.
So there's one more thing I want to add. Because Dr. Horn, see, the educational needs on the continent of Africa for a lot of young brothers and sisters is completely different from what you would have here. Completely different. Brothers and sisters there need a lot of things that brothers and sisters here already have been given. And once they got that, it will be better for them coming into consciousness. The process on the continent is big difference, and Dr. Horn would be including, and I said the reason I mentioned Dr. Horn, because the President General just laid it out. Those of us that passed the course, we will go into the course and specifically address certain areas of need to build curriculums based around the population that you are dealing with.
Because it's going to be different.
So it'll be different. That's my point. And so, but we do need input in writing from various different educators who've had experience.
Yes, one thing I'd like is, I think it's only like about 1 or 2 countries that have free education to a certain point in Africa. And what I'm proposing is that to African countries and the African Union, say like, okay, just like you have a budget for your arms, okay, to me, your budget for education gotta be that or higher for the country so that people can get free education at least for 12 years or 10 years, whatever. Sometimes, and guess what? Don't say that we don't have the money, because we just have the money. We just have to allocate the money and force each country to that, hey, pledge that you're gonna pay this much of the percentage of your GMP or whatever.
You have to first get to the table to have that kind of conversation with presidents of countries. That's first. And even to have that conversation with the African Union. See, so that's a part of the process, is to be able to get in the room and have that kind of conversation. I can't sit here and tell you what a president of any country can or cannot do. But if we discuss and implement how education is important and relative to making the change. We listened the other night to the president of Tanzania, South Africa, who made a comment that European nations want to be the parents. So we don't need you to be our parent. We can develop the vaccine ourselves and then allocate it. All I can get you to do is step out the way. So when it comes to education or other challenges that African nations face, we have to be able to sit at the table and have a viable conversation with that. So we can't say, you need to do this. So we can say, when we're there to have that conversation, here's something we think you should look at, and then try to provide them with the mechanism where it can be accomplished. But we have to do more diplomacy at this stage than directives. Yes, ma'am.
Reparations.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, reparations and mortgages. Reparations.
Okay. In all honesty, I don't believe that this government is going to give reparations to us. They believe, and this is what they've projected, but by giving you Juneteenth and saying that slavery was bad, you should be okay. So so if at a point that we are going to challenge that discussion, okay, say at a point when we decide to challenge that discussion,
Right.
then when we challenge it, we go with the facts and say there was 300 years of labor. Because let me give you a point here. Abraham Lincoln didn't free no slaves. Abraham Lincoln's belief was that the emancipation should cover hundreds of years. And he also believed that every Negro that he emancipated should be put on a ship and shipped back to Africa. Folks don't know that.
Right.
But he also offered the slaveholder reparations for slaves that he lost. All right, that didn't fly. Only because the abolitionists and some high, like Frederick Douglass folks, pushed against that and pushed them in another direction. So today, America is talking about reparations. She's giving reparations to the Japanese. Yeah, for incarcerating them.
The Jews.
Well, not so much the Jews. America didn't do it, but they did help them get it. So it becomes a conversation that we can engage with as we move forward, but we have to also build the strength so that the voices of the people are saying it as well.
Right.
See, because our differences at this point is what we have to impact on to begin to have that conversation for reparations. However, I'm going to tell you, from what I've seen from this Caucasian man, he think he already gave you reparations.
Right. So let me add to that, because that's very important, because the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, NCOBRA, Dr. Horn, myself, we kind of joined with that. We with that. But
Can you say more?
yeah, I am. Let me finish, because I was in the UK when a major reparations march was made against the government there. And it was major. I mean, thousands upon thousands of people. But what the President General just said is very important. Because when we think reparations, we always think about going to the enemy for repair. We need to internally repair ourselves. That reparations is what the UNIA is mostly concerned about, because once we repair ourselves, if necessary, we don't need to ask. We go take what belongs to us. That's important. Then on the other hand, though, we are aligned with NCOBRA and other international groups that are addressing the issue of putting pressure on Yurugu. We support that. But we take a position, and it goes all the way back to President General Battle. He said you cannot have internal reparations without external, you can't have external reparations without internal repair. Because if, I think it was Ken Bridges that said, if they give us reparations on Friday, you will turn around and give it right back to them on Monday. With the mentality.
On Saturday.
Right, but with the mentality that we have. Now, that's when you think in terms of dollars. But when you start talking about reparations and repair, right to control your own sovereignty, right to control your own land, like Renoko used to always say, right to return all of our products that you stole. There's a lot of things in reparations that are very, very important. However, the UNIA's fight is with African people to be able to stand up and repair ourselves, as well as defend ourselves.
And at that point,
Say that again, please.
I said repair ourselves as well as defend ourselves. In other words, having a central army that will protect you against Yurugu, or go take back what you need to take back. And I know we live on Facebook. I mean, it's just a right to self-determination. We talk about Kuji Chakalia, we have that right.
true. And so that's why that discussion will be an ongoing one.
Yeah, it is.
There's no immediate answer for that.
Yeah. But their groups align. We didn't mention NCOBRA and a lot of groups that we already. Cam Howard is in the UNIA. He's the co-chair of the national co-chair of NCOBRA. He's a UNIA member. So, but
Getting to the point, even within COBRA.
right.
See, you didn't turn around and say, has reparations happened? Again, I'm going to tell you what the Europeans are going to tell you. You were going to say, well, I have to say, we did that. And you'll say, how or where? And they'll tell you. And you'll say, that's not reparations. And it's not. So that's more to come.
Who will pay reparations for our soul?
I don't think that's what she's talking about. She mentioned
No.
mortgage and student loans.
No, I'm saying internally.
Yeah.
When we internally repair ourselves. See, the whole reparations issue is almost like, when we're going to get our check? When we're going to get our 40 acres in our mule? We may never.
No, we know we're never going to get the 40 acres in the mule. We may never, we're not going to.
But what I'm saying is, it's almost like you're going to the source that's struggling right now for their survival, in my opinion. I believe Yurugu is struggling for its very survival. Because as we rise, it will be a demise of Yurugu. And they don't want us to rise. So to me, that's a form of the repair that we need to go about doing. But anyway, who else? Anybody else got a question or a comment that they want to share? Because what this is an opportunity for us to be clear that we have an opportunity to converse, and not only live. You can always write. You can always go through Baba Mosi, through Zama, myself, or you can go direct to others in the UNIA.
And also, the thrust here is having open dialogue. We're not hiding anything. Yes, ma'am. I see the look on your face.
So is this going to be one of many? Are you going to regularly address the
population?
constituency? Yeah.
Well, we have been doing that, but not quite like this. So at a point, yes, it will become regular that we will put together well, we talked about podcasts or live Facebook broadcasts, where I still have opportunity, even if it's virtual, to interface with folks in a particular room and broadcast it. So yes, that's the thrust.
So more like quarterly or
I
semi-annual?
haven't put a timetable to it yet, but I'll let you know.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comment, Barbara Wilson? Any other comments? Any other questions? Good to see you, Tim. Yeah. So let me ask a question, PG.
Go right.
With all of the stuff that's on the table that we gotta do, and I know we have quite more divisions than a lot of people know about, what is your take on what will come out of St. Croix that will be beneficial to gaining more leverage with recruitment, and also San Diego Convention?
Okay. For those of you who do not know, St. Croix is where the High Executive Council is going to meet. And the High Executive Council meeting kind of sets the stage as we move forward to convention. So what I expect to come out of the High Executive Council, A, is more clarity and more unity between presidents of various divisions and offices that attend, so that the unity becomes crucial and the message is being spread for and why, and it's on the same level, maybe spoken differently, but on the same path. So I look for that to come out of it. I look for us to address some critical issues that will be a part of our agenda. I look for those days to be beneficial. I look to San Diego for a couple of things. We have to reconfirm our amendment changes. So I'm looking for presidents of divisions to be having those discussions so that when they return to the convention floor, the amendment that restructured can then be ratified, because I know it would have been discussed with the entire membership base. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for the San Diego Convention to yield at least 1 or 2 new divisions, and some from the West Coast as well. We are in discussion now. So I'm looking for that to come out of this. I'm looking for San Diego also to be a pivot, because the way it should structure, coming out of San Diego in August, we should go right into August 31st. That announcement should happen, it happened tonight, but it'll be formally pushed out information throughout the year. And also, I'm looking forward to the San Diego Convention to strengthen us. See, we need to bring more members to convention. Yes. We need to bring more officers to High Executive Council. We need to bring more guests to convention. And this year in San Diego, we should be able to put on some programs that bring people in. So we should therefore also be able to make a forward thrust in our ability to communicate across the board. Listen, I know it's not cheap to do stuff. We live in America. I got that. But when we're in San Diego, we should be able to bring more people from San Diego in so that we begin to get the message out. We need to not only do Facebook like this, we need to do other interviews with other officers to make sure that the people can see that there is a unity amongst them. So I'm looking to take the High Executive Council as the building block for convention, to move it in that direction, and also to make sure that, because we have presidents' meetings, and I don't know if you know that, we do a presidents' meeting. So the presidents will be given their instruction, and I'm looking for all of this to begin to build the process that has to happen. See, this is not going to happen in a vacuum. You got to build a process. And we were given one that, unfortunately, as we move forward, it needs to be addressed. You said African artificial intelligence. I think you said AI.
AI.
Right, but I'm adding the A, AI. Right. So even in looking in that direction, we have to build the internal process by which the UNIA functions and continues to grow, and so that message is clear. See, so then when we get into the science of an AI, we'll know how to absolutely use it, how to operate it, how to make it work for us. And not just because one person has it, but because there are other engineers that you bring in and you have those conversations. Even in the discussion in reference to reparations and knowing that we have in COBRA, there's other conversations that need to happen around that, because possibly at a different date, a part of the process, we take a different position when it comes to that. But that happens because it comes through discussion.
And it happens because leadership is collective. The leader may be one, but leadership is collective. It's a collective process. The UNIA was built on having a collective process. Some people have taken that to mean that if you are the president general, you don't have to worry about nobody else. No, I got to worry about this brother. I got to worry about those brothers out there. I got to worry about you. I got to be concerned about that. I got to be concerned about how you see what I do. Because if I don't do that, then I won't follow the process. The Constitution gives us some. If there's errors or mistakes, the Constitution says this is what you do, this is how you address it, this is how you resolve it. So you implement that. See, so we have to come through the High Executive Council as well as through convention, establishing process and reinventing process. Yeah, reinventing because we're in 21st century. So it's not the same as it was in the 20th century. So we got to make some changes. And we're all right with that. See, that's what you take it on for. Because at the end of the day, with all of the memorandums of understanding, with all of the outreach that you do, with all of the language changes that we attempt to make for the message that we put out, for all of the all of the essence that we put out over the airways and move those things, without the proper process, it gets lost. And we won't get it lost, not on my watch. So I'll take the time to build them, because there's going to be some who come after me, and they have to step into a process that moves forward flexible, not one that says, you the king, because you ain't the king. You may be a king, and I said you ain't the king. You say, what do you mean? I may be a king, but when it comes to UNIA-ACL RC2020, I'm a part of the process. My office gives me certain leverage, it gives me certain abilities, but there's a process, and we have to operate in it, and we have to make sure we move that process forward. To your
Excellent, excellent. You addressed just what I wanted, because I want, I know you opened up explaining 2022, but I wanted to make sure people are clear that we've already charted the course of how we put things in place going forward for the 5-year plan down. We want to be working the first year, not put a 5-year plan down and say, well, after 5 years this is going to happen.
No.
So and you said that. Right. I just wanted everybody to be clear. You're able to go to St. Croix. You're able to start saving your funds to go to St. Croix. And Dr. Chinzara, who is the High Commissioner General, and that's if you read your Constitution, I suggest everybody look at that very carefully, so they understand what a High Commissioner General is. It's there. It's in the Constitution. And we both feeling your vibe. So come on, we feeling your energy.
Come on.
It's written across my forehead.
Yeah, I know.
Constitution.
Yeah, I know. So we're gonna get there. So Baba Kelly, go ahead and address that for her.
To that point, the Constitution is our book of laws. That's what it is. And we accept the book of laws that was handed down to us from 1929. But we also recognize that we needed to make some concrete changes in our book of laws. So our first change in our book of laws was to restructure elections. And in doing that, it becomes an amendment that will get a particular number title for RC 2020 that will address elections. And then when it's a part of the Constitution, which it will be once it's ratified, you see, there's a process. See, the process is if you pass an amendment the first year and you implement it, we can do that at the parent body level. We can say, this is what we want to do. We talk to the presidents, we can do that. However, for it to be ratified, it then has to go back to the people so that the people can vote on the amendment. And then when the president comes back, he won't be speaking, or she won't be speaking for themselves, they will be speaking for the membership. And we understand that. And then as we move forward, one of the things will be is to be able to promote amendment changes and distribute them to everybody so that everybody can feed into it. That's process. So we're making the first change, and I'm just using this amendment as an example of how we want to make the Constitution evolve.
So that's a division.
Didn't happen yet.
So understand process. Because without it, we stay floundering, and I'm not a flounderer, and I'm not a person that's going to propose and do nothing. I'm not sitting on my hands, I'm standing up and working every day. So, and if there is to our membership that may see this at some point, appearance of unclarity, you could absolutely feel that way. It's unreachable. And then you can go to your president and he can reach me. Because again, it's not problematic that you don't know now. It'll be problematic that you don't know when we comes to March and we start that conversation, because that means you will not have talked to your president, or your president didn't talk to you, and therefore we need to do something about that process. Yeah, it's a learning. It's a building and a learning. And then it's a growing, and then it is developed.
So I just want to add to what you just said is important. See, the Rehabilitating Committee of the government of the UNIA, which was established in this room some time ago, held its first convention physically in LA. That's when the ratification of the procedure for voting, the amendment for voting took place. But the President General made it profoundly clear at that convention that just because we accepted it at that convention, it still needed to be presented to the presidents and the rank and file so that they could have an opportunity to add, go vote against, or whatever, and bring it back. That's process. So, but remember, this is only one area in the Constitution that we're addressing. Let me finish. That was critical for the electoral process. Because over the years, we've seen all kinds of things that went on. So what we wanted to do is alleviate that problem. We also wanted to allow people in Africa and outside of the United States to have an opportunity to be involved in the process, because they were not previously. If you did not physically come to the convention, you didn't get a vote. We changed that process. However, we want it ratified where everybody's clear. The first president's meeting after the convention is coming up in January. So even though Baba Mosi is more than just the president of a division, he's on the parent body and he was at convention, a lot of the other presidents just got their minutes of 2 or 3 weeks ago, the rank and file. So everybody has an opportunity to read it and get clarity and ask their questions to their presidents. And then when we meet in the president's meeting, we can find out who missed what, who gained what.
Or whatever the needs are. They may, because in the minutes, I don't think it explicitly outlined the amendment change. I didn't see that. So that's something that will go out to the presidents when the president's called.
But that's supposed to be attached.
Yeah. And if it is, that's fine. But I didn't see any amendments. But the thrust is, if it's not, I mean, it may not happen. I mean, we're human. So if it doesn't happen, it means we have to make sure we get it out. I won't know until they start calling me or emailing me and saying, hey, we didn't get this, we need to do this.
It was sent out to presidents even before the minutes.
No. See, that's true.
Okay.
But to the first is in PG's point, yes, because it was a major discussion about the amendment. But 7 stand for me is about process. It's about procedure, not whether I did it first or whether I did it second. It's not about that. It's about, yeah, we had that discussion. Yes, we got their buy-in. Yes, we said this is what it is. Yes, we made that rule happen. Yes, we went to convention, asked the convention before it, do you accept it? They said yes. However, what I know is that everybody didn't see it. And what I also know, according to our own Constitution, yes, the Constitution, Rick Marshall forehead, the process says you now have to speak to the members. I'm the President General, my Assistant President General. We're going to make sure that happens. We're going to make sure that that conversation happens so that when it is ratified at convention of 2022, we will therefore make sure that it is now printed as an amendment to the Constitution with a proper number, a proper date, the proper year, so that you won't have a problem with finding that amendment. We have problems with finding the amendments in the Constitution because we're looking at the Constitution that came out in 1929 and not necessarily the Constitution from 1920.
See, so there's changes, and I have had opportunity to see changes in it. So, okay, that's an amendment. They didn't put the date, they didn't put the time. So if I'm looking at the Constitution, and I know because the Constitution is a living, breathing document, it don't die, you amend it. It means you don't take out what's in it, you add to it. See, you don't take it, it's a living, breathing document. It's, for me, it was the best thing I read, and it came to black people dealing with black people. Because if you read what white folks did with their Constitution, understand, they did not take out the view that we were 3/5 of a man. They take that language out. They amended it, kinda, but they left the language in. Living, breathing document. We have to amend our Constitution. Living, breathing document. So that as we move forward, it speaks to, listen, young people look at our Constitution from 1929 and they say, what can I do with this? And I've had that happen to me when I was president of Division 121 in Philadelphia. And I did constitutional classes, and I did it kind of like what I'm doing now. Living, breathing document, I pull it out and say, listen, it's like if you do the course of African philosophy, where it says in the course that if you're in need, you go to the government in order to get your needs addressed. Which government? Because I was at, we come to y'all, you here in America, there's a government that you pay taxes to, and they provide stuff for you. Not that you want you to adhere to it, but if you have the opportunity, use it. Yes.
I suggested 7. I suggest you give a closing statement so that we can knock out the stream.
Yes.
Because we get into
Gotcha.
deep stuff.
I got you.
So I suggest we come off of Facebook.
All right. So as a closing statement, the whole thrust of 2022 is to step lively into the world, set a path, follow it, recruit, develop, grow, and put our stamp on world politics. Thank you all.
So
I'd like to say something after him before Facebook closes.
well, come forward, sir. Because I think that we should get off of Facebook conversation.
Thank you, PG, for that outstanding remarks on where we're going. As president of Division 330, I would like to appeal to my members and to those people out there who feel that it's about time for them to become members, but they may be hemming and hawing, they may have issues about when they will be joining and all that. But let me say, as the President General put forward, we are going to be working. We'll be working in 2022. If you want to be a member, we don't want you to be a talking member. We want you to be a working member. A lot of us is yeah, tap. No, we want you to be a working member. Do you see what we're doing in Division 330 right now? It's about the work. It's about building the nation. So please, as Division 330 members, take this seriously, what the President General has said. It's on Facebook. If you forgot what he said 5 minutes ago, go back, review. It's a serious matter. We intend to work. So if you're coming in prepared. We've got some members who complain all the time. They should have been here tonight, President General,
Yes,
so
sir.
they can ask you directly some of the questions they ask me.
Yes, sir.
And I guess
Some of your members did. But
well, yeah, yes. The thing is, we're in a small room, and I did put out that, if you're coming, you must be prepared to distance yourself and all that. So I understand that. But hopefully, you'll have the questions for me, either at the next meeting or whenever you feel like talking to me about the issues you have in mind. So again, thank you, President General.
I say,
Thank you for being in Washington, D.C. Thank you for putting out that face of what the UNIA-ACL RC2020 looks like. And we will be coming back to you in 2022. Thank you very much.
yes, sir.
So we can shut the Facebook down.
One God, one aim, one destiny.
One God, one aim,